sharing that story with the Snap. Now, Sharon went on to become a well-known artist. You can find out more about her work on our website, snapjudgment.org. The original sound design for that story was by Renzel Gorio. It was produced by Anna Sussman. Now then, when Snap Judgment continues, the teeniest, tiniest mother ever fights back. And she fights back hard, Snappers. When the Big Girls Don't Cry episode continues, stay tuned. From WNYC, welcome back to Snap Judgment, the Big Girls Don't Cry episode. My name is Glenn Washington, and we've been featuring amazing stories of grit and determination, but nothing like this. Snap Judgment's Anna Sussman takes us to China, to an orphanage where a young child is just about to meet her new American mother for the very first time. Snap Judgment.
When we got there, it was a cold day in January, and all the older children came rushing out to see us. They knew that we were there to do an adoption, and very few children are ever adopted, and they had practiced saying hello. They brought my child to me, my daughter Jacqueline, and she, of course, was absolutely terrified. She was 4 years old, and then she basically was told, "These are your new parents, and get in the car with them." She was not about to do that. She planted her feet and she began to cry and make a sound, not even like a human cry. It was like listening to an animal. And all the cajoling and all the encouragement couldn't get her into the car, so we literally almost kidnapped her. We had to pick her up. My husband picked her up and kind of put her in the back seat of the car, where she just laid there stiffly across my lap. And she screamed and she screamed and she screamed. Shout, 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 shout. And I kept believing, well, this will be when she gets home, when she gets to the United States, this will end. What I didn't know was that this shadow would live with us every day. There was an interpreter there that was a guide for us, and she told the interpreter to explain to us that she had a baby, and she wasn't going to leave China without her baby. She called him Xiao Xiao, which is a Chinese nickname for very little. Xiao Xiao. She explained that if the kids were older than 3, they were given jobs. So her job, her responsibility was to care for these 2 little toddlers that were basically a head shorter than she was. She had potty trained them, and she would help them eat. What she was the most proud of, really, was that she had protected them from bigger kids. She said she gave all her love to this little boy she had nicknamed Xiao Xiao, and that she was not going to leave China without her baby. We were there for about 2 weeks total, and then when we came back here, within 6 weeks, she could speak, and she could actually convey some pretty complex thoughts in full sentences. She talked about him constantly. The only way I could describe it was like living with a very short mother who had had a baby ripped from her arms. She never stopped talking about him.
Fuck off!
We just said to her, we can't bring him here. And of course, she couldn't understand the sophisticated system of how all the paperwork that's required and the red tape, and you can't just take a child out of there. To be honest, I never even thought about trying to bring him here. I just kept thinking that she would get over it. One of the things I can remember most vividly was the first time I took her to McDonald's. She couldn't believe that not only did you get this cool meal, but that you also got this little toy, in the Happy Meal. But then I noticed every time we went there after that, she wouldn't open her Happy Meal package. She'd hold the toy up to the light to see what it was. And then when she got home, she stuffed him in a little box. And finally I asked her what she was doing, and she said Xiao Xiao never had a little toy. There was no logic that you could give her in terms of trying to explain why he couldn't come here. She had noticed that we only had 5 chairs around our dining room table and that they were already full. And so she said,